Hey YouTubers, I'm going to make a film about my Lionel 671 Pennsylvania turbine. And this was made between 1946 and 1948. And I'll move it up a bit. When I was a kid, I received this from my father, who bought a lot of used trains from the widow of a fellow Elks Club member. And I had no idea that he was hiding them all away in the barn, and that every Christmas and birthday I would receive a train item. And this was one of them, and I believe I was around 10 or 11 when I received it. And I thought it was very cool. Knew absolutely nothing. Dad didn't know that it was a turbine, a model of a turbine, and neither did I. I just thought these side rods were a bit odd, and they weren't quite as interesting as the side rods on a lot of other Lionel trains. And it was extremely heavy. It had this big box on the front, is what I called it as a child. Had no idea what it was. And it was the best smoker of all my trains. In fact, it actually blows O-rings. Like you see the old guy smoking his stogie, and he's blowing the circular rings with the smoke. Well, this does it. So I did a little reading about the Pennsylvania turbine and found out that it was a lemon. Had it not been for Lionel producing these wonderful locomotives, I don't think anybody would know about the Pennsylvania turbine. The original Pennsylvania turbine was, I believe they started constructing it around 1942 and it was finished in 44. It was copied off of something that the turbine engines are something they've used for years on ships and for extra speed. And if you want to learn how a turbine engine works, then I suggest you go online, because there's some wonderful drawings and specifications. I'm not going to explain how it works. It's a pretty complicated system, but it's a great system for ships. It did not work out for the original prototype, which was the 6200 S series of Pennsylvania Railroad. It was 97% efficient at high speeds, and they did not give a number as far as the efficiency at low speeds, but at low speeds it used up a tremendous amount of coal, and the boilers would overheat, and often the bolts would break in the boilers. And this ran all through the remainder from 1944 through the remainder of World War II. Carried a lot of troops, and was very useful to the railroad despite its flaws. But the turbine mechanism had a catastrophic failure in, I believe it was 1948, and they did not describe what the catastrophic failure was. However, generally that means it blew up or jammed or something, and the cost of labor was getting so high that they just simply removed it from the line, and I believe it was 1949 that they scrapped it, which is kind of sad. It would have been, it's an icon of American railroad history. This thing was so big, and of course this is a toy, and not to scale. You'll notice the 6 wheels in the front and the 6 wheels in the back. Reason being was metal shortages and during wartime, and they had to use what they had, and therefore the train was heavier than they wished it to be, and therefore needed more wheels to support it. One very interesting fact is you'll see where the turbine is on the outside of the shell, and the turbine on the original prototype for the Pennsylvania Railroad ran these 2 wheels, and the axles on the end and the wheels were simply run by the connection of the side rods. And obviously they needed these extra 2 wheels to support the weight. And it's the absolute opposite on Lionel. Here are your power wheels. These wheels don't even connect and touch the track, which helps it round corners. So you can actually run this on 027 track. So just a little bit of interesting trivia. Here's the tender. This is a 2671W. W meaning whistle, and it has a very good whistle. And as I said, this is the best smoker I had. I always wondered what this box was on the front. I call it a box because a protrusion is box-shaped protrusion, and this was actually for a radiator for cooling the air brakes. As a kid, it was something for me to grab onto when I put it on the track. So, at any rate, had it not been for Lionel, this the Pennsylvania turbine would not have become an icon. They also made it in other numbers without changing the shell. I'm going to show you a 1948 catalog. If you'll excuse me moving the camera. There's the catalog, and there's the turbine on the cover. I'm going to open a page. And this is page number 10 and 11. And you will see 2 2020s, same body, although they only have 8 wheel tenders in their freights, which Pennsylvania did not use them for hauling freight cars. But it's a toy. It's very cool. See your milk car, your crane car, your coal unloader. And then when you get up to page 14 and 15, you will see my model, which is the 671 with the 12-wheel tender, whistle tender. And it's pulling 3 beautiful green Pullmans. Down below, they have the same tender and locomotive, and it's pulling a freight train with an SP style caboose. So it's kind of neat to be able to open up the old catalogs and see how much they cost. Now, the set would have cost $57.75, which seems really cheap. That was a lot of money back then. So if we had a time machine and could go back and buy these, that'd be pretty cool. But we don't have a time machine. So what I have here are aftermarket, I call them aftermarket. They're Lionel did a reissue of these green passenger cars. In the 90s, and they were made in the US. And look at that thing puff smoke. Usually the locomotive will have to warm up a bit to puff smoke. This one does not have to do that. Quite the loud whistle. So there you've seen it run. I should have mentioned this does not have magnet traction. Since it was originally made in 1946, magnet traction did not come out until the 1950s. And you'd have to try really hard to derail this because it has a very good center of gravity and it's extremely heavy. So the only other thing I can think to mention about this is the 1946 version of the 671 and 2020 had a dimpled light bulb inside here, which also worked as a smoke unit. And you drop the old smoke pellet down the faux twin smokestack, and it would land on that hot light bulb and it would smoke like crazy. And I don't know why they stopped doing it, using that light bulb, the dimpled light bulb, or not. All those people are gone now who made these trains. So I should mention that in there is an other very desirable model. It's called the 682. It was first issued in 1952. It has magnet traction. It also has a little um, rod that works with this side rod, and I'm not sure what it's called. I tried to look it up and couldn't find out. And it just is screwed onto here, onto the shell, and it's hooked up to here and goes back and forth. But apparently it was something original to the Pennsylvania model, and the white stripe would have been right down here where someone would have walked along the shell. So that's all I know. And usually you see these running, but nobody tells you anything about it or any of the history. So fortunately, Lionel decided to make these trains, and I'm sure they were very upset when they found out it was a lemon and they were going to scrap it. But this train was a success, not on the Pennsylvania line, but on the Lionel lines. They also made a very large model that was scale. Lionel made it, and had all the sound and all that, which doesn't interest me. It interests some people, but I'm sure it wouldn't run around my 031 track. So I'm very happy with this 671, particularly since it was given to me by my father. And so I will be turning 70 this year. So I will have received this 60 years ago. And the train, because it has an actual smoke unit and not the dimpled light bulb, I know that it was made in at least 1947 to 48, so it's at least a year or two older than me. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the information and learned something. Really, go online and find out what a turbine is, and it's fascinating. And I can't imagine when the turbine broke on this Pennsylvania Railroad. I can understand why they scrapped it. It had thousands, literally thousands of parts. And catastrophic failure means to me that it probably blew up or exploded under stress. So once again, this has been a Big Lizard production. Hope to see you soon, and bye-bye.